All right, Pavlos, it's time. Episode 30. After like a year and a half or 2 years, it's crazy.
Just over 2 years, I think. We took a long break, right?
But it's always just a hiatus. We can finally get right back to it with Quackshot. I'm so excited.
Yeah,
Brogan,
me too.
Brogan, I'm back. Brogan, I'm back from the shop.
Where do I hide?
Closet.
All right.
Oh, hello, Pavlos.
Hello, Murph.
Brogan didn't tell me you'd be staying for the holidays.
Listen, it's cold. The heating in my place, like,
is that
not working.
Is that
right
Quackshot
now?
on the monitor?
No.
Bro, you said you didn't want to do a Quackshot episode. You said you wanted to talk about Lies of P.
Don't make this any harder than it has to be. Welcome back, Pavlos, man. How's it been?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, listen, should we get right in? So, last episode, obviously I've been on Super Mario 3D World, right? Was playing some Pokemon Fusion, so let's talk about those. We have 2 years of games to catch up here, so I've made a list.
Oh my gosh.
Oh dear.
So, the 2 year minute, if you will.
Slay the Spire here. Been playing still. Mostly it's a list of games I haven't managed to beat in those 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
No.
That happens.
No.
But you said you wanted to reform, right? You wanted to change.
Yes. I've been bad. I've been a bad man, and I've confronted my sins of the past, and
you finish now.
I'm finished confronting the sins, and now I'm trying to do good to myself.
This feels vague. Can you be more specific?
You're a
on
man
the
who
sins?
concludes.
No.
Okay.
No, listen.
Pavlos the conclusionist.
Exactly. I was an inconclusionist. I was a guy. I never do good. Never finish game good.
Well, okay. All right. Now, I'm gonna start. Throwing you.
Are we talking? Is this an allegory? A metaphor?
Wait. I will say, when we used to do this together, you would always try to 100% complete everything. And I was like, fuck that. Are you crazy? Just beating it's good enough. Yeah. And I think that's where do you think that completionist mindset prevents you from finishing things?
Yeah, totally. And so I've adjusted, now I only finish games 99%. And that,
there you go.
Yeah, that made all the difference. No, listen, so there's a couple of things I've done. Obviously, I was not satisfied with sort of starting so many games, not finishing them. But at the same time, I realized that, with my approach to it was, it would never really happen. There would never be really a significant change, because I'm also at the stage of my life. Let's just say, let's also say, we created we created this podcast during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
We had lots of time. I had lots of time, and then life started back up, and it was just tough for me to fit this in. Also with the time difference, of course, and etc. And so I handed it to Murph, and he's done a terrible job. No, and
and I'm ready to hand it right back.
No, and in that time also, I've had to reconsider how to play games, because it's definitely I want it to remain a constant in my life, but it's a thing in phases. There's several weeks where basically don't play much, or only certain games that I can maybe play, quote unquote podcast games,
Yeah.
But and it's usually ones that I Slay the Spire, a Dicey Dungeons, some puzzle games or whatever, that I haven't also quite finished yet. And the other thing is saying, okay, there's certain things I don't need to do in games, which I already said before, but now I try to become even more reasonable in that respect. And another thing that I've tried is to like intersperse my sort of the playthroughs of those games with like shorter stuff that is definitely like finishable, that doesn't have like much sort of bells and whistles and extra stuff, like certain indies, I mean.
If it's under 6 hours, we're good.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Like, oh no, we're talking about, max like 2 hour, 3 hour games.
That's beautiful.
Old games, like plenty of like just going through, just for convenience sake, stuff on the Nintendo Switch Online. Playing some fucking Burger Time on the Game Boy.
There you go. The classic.
Yeah.
I've actually been really like impressed by the Nintendo Switch lineup. We didn't get to talk about it ever, but like especially when they added the Game Boy Advance stuff, I'm like, thank fucking God.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's still hilarious / baffling decisions like on what gets added. Something like every month, it's like there's at least like 1 or 2 games where I'm like, okay, okay, who suggested these?
And it'll never be as good as like Wii or Wii U Virtual Console. But that being said, I like playing things on the Switch. So playing anything on the Switch is fucking fantastic. So
it's getting there though, I think.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the Wii stuff you had to keep buying like every single one of them. So it's much cheaper this way. You have for me, the killer feature is the rewind. Like that actually is such a perfect fit for those games where you like, that are obviously very much, very like a lot
difficult.
Of those you can, especially, I wouldn't say difficult, but like, especially
bullshit.
Games that have their roots in arcade.
Say bullshit.
No. That's why
they want to extend your playtime, so you have to rent it multiple times. It's always the rental market.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's rooted, I was going to say, which it amounts to the same thing. Games rooted in sort of arcade, they're with arcade roots, in design. Obviously, they want you to die a lot, and, ain't got no time for that. So the rewind is...
Speaking of ain't got no time for that, tell us about your experience with Octopath Traveller.
Yeah, you're playing shorter games now, right?
How did you know about that? How did you know I played that game? I didn't really ever talk about it.
What's this post on the Discord about you being on hour 90?
Shorter games.
No, I think my final
size.
playtime. I think my final playtime was 130 hours or so.
Damn.
No, Octopath Traveller, actually a really good example because obviously I've heard really good things about 2. Basically like decent, mediocre to decent things about 1, but I can't. I'm not gonna drop that. I can't start with 2 like that. That's just. I don't know.
You have to start with 1.
It's impossible.
You have to know.
Murph even knows this. Murph knows this.
Yeah.
You have to start from the beginning.
Yeah, maybe when I'm like pensioner or whatever, I will have I will be like relaxed enough to start with 2. It's like okay, the years are running out here, so no, but I did everything in that game. I did like literally everything, and I'll say that it's there's some good aspects.
How was it for your health?
I like the battle system. I mean, toward the end, terrible. But like it's like a mediocre RPG at best, and then like the big post, like there's several post game things, but like the main post game like final boss thing happened, and it's literally the worst thing I've like sort of one of the worst things I've ever seen in video games, like in serious video games, and like I would venture to say like it must be one of the hardest things. I'm not the only one to say this. One of the hardest things ever in a JRPG.
So what's your bar for quality JRPG that this isn't clearing?
You mean like
to get a baseline? What's a Pavlos approved JRPG?
Yeah. Now let me just say that tanked it even further, and then I didn't do it, and that was my big sort of personal victory. Do you mean like in like the do you mean titles or
yeah, like what's a Pavlos approved
or,
JRPG?
Chrono Trigger.
Okay. Fair.
Paper Mario.
Have you ever played these vignette JRPGs before, like a Live Alive, or isn't there like a Romancing Saga or something? I don't know how many vignette story based like ones where they converge. There are. Live Alive is the one I immediately know.
Right. Well, it used to be quite a thing. I wouldn't say it's vignette here necessarily. Well, it is in the sense that actually the stories don't really intersect, like they don't really come together, and kind of in the last thing, but not really. They're pretty separate by and large, which is a problem. But I guess not too many. I mean, I wouldn't say like that. That's not a very common structure, is it?
No, but I guess my thing is like, do you feel like the structure was like a core problem for you, or no?
I guess not necessarily, because I hear that too is sort of more interesting. There's more interesting things with the individual stories, and no, I mean I think I can imagine a sequel with sort of more creativity in the story department and like more interesting characters, with more sort of like it has like better and more varied music and like some new wrinkles to the battle system, which is already a good one.
You just want more complexity. Is that what's going on?
I guess in all departments, basically, yeah. Like narrative department, mechanical department, less so, but wouldn't hurt.
But it feels like a good foundation for a sequel that goes ham.
You would play it too.
It reminded me of. I mean, I will. Several years have to pass before I touch 2. But like I'm Octopathed out.
He's got to beat various day life, triangle strategy.
Yeah. No, it reminded me actually a lot of Bravely Default, the first one. Though I like that better. But that definitely does has some clear missteps. But like it's a really, really good mechanical foundation. Like great battle system, great look. But it was better in several respects. Like what you were doing there was much more interesting until they sort of go wrong with a very major bad decision. But before that, much better, much like more, and also like much like incredible soundtrack and so on. But it still reminded me of that, like very good first foundation. I can name other games obviously where that is the case, but. Like a Pokemon Legends Arceus, though I would say like that's by itself a much better game, but it's also like a game where it's like, okay, it's super clear what they have to do for the next one, basically. Like,
yeah, they're just testing things out.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're testing things out, but are already quite successful, even with.
Yeah, they're testing things out for an hour and 30-minute length game. Or sorry. 130-hour length game.
Yeah, there's like that. Which game are we talking about? Yeah. Well, I mean, I did everything, and I'm also really I'm slow, like because I'm really methodical, and I do like really I just got like all the weapons and all the side quests and so that. I just do it was old me operating there until new me had to step in, and I was sort of proud of that of new me like stepping in at the end and saying like you will not do this. Like I did it once and it's so terrible. I mean, I can't even if we get into why it is so terrible, then the entire
we'll be here
episode,
another 10 minutes.
The entire episode will be that. So I typed it out once, the entire thing, or several times maybe. I don't know.
He's vented about it. He's went to therapy multiple times. He's been billed quite a bit. I am not qualified to dissect his trauma there. So, Murph, how is Rainworld?
Yeah, Rainworld is a game I kind of have a love-hate relationship. I feel like this was kind of the new indie hotness when it first came out in 2017. At the very least, I saw a lot of people talking about it. Because it was a game that was very easy to make, like, let's play videos out of because it's like chaotic and random to a degree. Have either of you played it? I guess is a good first question.
No, I have not.
Explain to us.
And I'm surprised that you said what you said about the popularity, because that was a game that kind of came and went for me, when like a game that was more prominent in my perception pre-release than after it released. But it's interesting that you.
So, Rainworld is it's sort of people credit it as a Metroidvania. I wouldn't really call it that. I find it more akin to something just more like a open world. It's sort of a go anywhere you want, and then you'll stumble across like a path forward. But it's set on an alien planet. You are a little slug cat, which that name describes everything you are. You are a slug and a cat. And
cat life.
you get separated from your family, and that never comes into play ever again for the entirety of the narrative, I'm just realizing. But you're alone on this planet, and everything wants to eat you. And you are just trying to survive. You are trying to eat enough food items a day, and then finding a shelter by the end of the day. Because the reason it's called Rainworld is that it has cycles of torrential, deadly downpour, where it's raining so hard, things caught outside just get crushed, things inside, like the insides all flood, everything drowns. So you have to find food, you have to find shelter. And
how do the other animals survive it?
They also find food and shelter.
Okay, so I'm curious. I did not realize this description. The way you're saying it makes it sound like a sim. Like, is this like Tokyo Jungle Cubivore territory? Or is it much more curated into like an actual, like, I don't want to say an actual game, but you know what I'm saying.
I would call it an immersive sim.
Okay.
And your mechanics
Jungle
are...
is the most game, okay? I don't know. What are you insinuating, bro?
Yeah, I agree. That's fair.
Sorry, Murph.
So there is a sort of like progression and narrative through line, but you sort of stumble across it. At first, you're just sort of running around and exploring. Like the first area, you can typically find enough food and just kind of stay there, but that's just staying in the starting area. Eventually, you're going to get curious and explore further, and these environments are very fun to traverse. It has a fun movement aesthetic. You're a bit swifter than other predators, and there's a lot of like tunnels where things can hide out, and you can sort of, if there's like a carnivorous lizard out in the open, you can generally like crawl through a tunnel right past it. The big conceit and selling point of the game to me is that it has like people say it's like a fully simulated ecosystem. I wouldn't really go that far, but the AI of the creatures is very sophisticated when compared to other games. Like everything has like hearing and sight mechanics. So if you're running from a creature and you duck out of its line of sight and sort of hide behind it, it will lose track of you and it will look around. And it will sort of stay still and listen for you to make noise. And if you accidentally kick a rock or something, that will make sound and will hone in on where you are. And there's a lot of different creatures that interact with these systems in various ways. Everything has very clear needs and wants. Big lizards will hunt smaller lizards. Everything is going to avoid the carnivorous worm grass that's in a few areas.
Sorry?
When it gets close to the rain coming down.
We're just going to skip over that part.
Okay.
The worm grass is the worst part of the game. I'll get into that. So everything is just sort of plopped into the map by the designers, and then things just sort of crawl around while you're also crawling around. So...
But will the sort of on a screen, let's say, right? Will there always be the same creature there, more or less?
Sometimes and sometimes not. They all have the same spawn positions, but when you go into, say, you're not going to understand what I mean by this. If you go into the pipe yards area, near the first shelter, there may be a black lizard there. But but when I go there, it may not. It may be a few screens over because it's wandered over to where
I see.
some
so
bat flies are.
Right. It's likely, but not not. It's not. So no. The answer is no. There won't always be the same. Yeah. Okay.
And so sometimes that creates these beautiful like simulated moments where it's like I need to move forward, but there's 3 lizards camping out by the path forward. And that's not the dev plonking them down and saying, oh, this is a challenging encounter. Those are all congregating there because their usual hunting grounds have been taken over by this tribe of scavenger monkeys that have just sort of wandered in and chased them out. But the lizards are territorial, so if you can get them to fight each other, that creates enough of a distraction for you to slink on by. And so 90% of the time, it all works really well, and it feels like you are overcoming the odds by using your knowledge of the ecosystem to your advantage.
Right.
The other 10% of the time is when the simulation breaks down through some really aggressive difficulty spikes through a lot of gimmick levels. So
don't forget about the worm grass.
So the aforementioned worm grass, one of the late game areas, has the ground is just covered in this carnivorous grass, and it will eat anything. And early on you can early on you can like platform over it. There's some tense moments where you're like shimmying along a bar and the grass is like trying to get at you. But then you come to areas where it's just complete fields of the stuff, and there's no path forward except for these tall-ass, tumor-ridden deers that sort of wander around. And if they see you, they'll come over to you and kneel down, and you can climb on their backs. And then they'll stand up and walk to where you need to go. The issue is because they are also part of the simulated environment, they can sometimes just not be anywhere near you.
Right.
And you can end up wasting a day waiting for one to spawn or walk over to you. And you can kind of coax them closer with some vegetation, but the vegetation's really far away from where they are, and it's just, like I said...
They wasted a big deal? Or...
Yes. So it has what it's called the karma system, and every time you finish a day with your belly full and in a shelter, your karma level will go up. If you die or quit the game a minute into a cycle, you'll go down a karma level. And the only reason that matters is that the checkpoints into new areas, you have to hit a certain karma level to bypass.
I see.
So
it means is you have to survive. You have to like prove the game that you can survive in the previous area for...
Yes. And it's grinding. And the grinding isn't really fun because of the aforementioned like chaotic nature. So you can get through a really difficult area by the skin of your teeth and be like, "Oh, I beat it." And then get there and realize you are 3 karma levels lower than you need to be to move on. So you have to go back and sort of like forage for food. And sometimes the food isn't near your shelter, and it just creates issues. And I think
the devs... Can it also mean that you, like, if you keep failing then at that area, like, that you fall even further behind? Because you
can plummet down to the lowest karma level.
Yeah, that seems to be... Yeah, it's a really odd, like, grinding structure. I don't think I've ever, like... I can't think of anything similar where, like, I would agree that's more kind of grinding in a way, or, like, at least... repeating the same challenge to like prove the game that I can do this, trust me. But yeah, that seems to be at odds, like you said, with the sort of with the sort of contingency of the world,
especially as difficulty ramps up, because like clearly later areas are meant to be more difficult and there's meant to be problems, but if you're dying or sometimes you need to fucking get out of the game midday or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that sounds abrasive.
Yeah, and it's really only ever an issue when you come to those karma checkpoints for me. Because the game does have a lot of deaths that feel completely out of your control. It uses a sort of like when you move between screens, it doesn't scroll, it just jumps to the next screen. And sometimes, if you're walking forward and then it jumps to the next screen, bam, there's an enemy you didn't know about that immediately kills you. And I never really found those frustrating. A lot of the times it's just funny to me. But when it came to those moments where it's like, I just need 3 more karma levels. Please, God, just let me get the karma I need to move forward. It's that case of like, I'm really enjoying this game when it's letting me progress forward. But anytime I have to grind to a stop to actually like exist in the ecosystem, it doesn't work.
It sounds like it should have a no karma mode. Like where you get to a checkpoint, it works.
So yeah, I kind of feel like you could cut out the karma system. The only like hang on is that it ties into the game's overall themes and story about cycles and rebirth.
Themes.
Yeah.
Who needs them?
Who needs those, dog?
Yeah.
We play video games.
Yeah.
But I did beat the game, and I did end up like I cursed a lot at this game towards the end, like a lot. But I beat the game, was very satisfied with it, immediately bought the DLC on sale, and the DLC is kind of one of those things where it's like secretly a sequel. Like it has enough content to be a sequel, and it gives you different species of slug cat to play, which all have different sort of busted mechanics. Like here's a slug cat with a double jump that can create explosive spears out of nothing. Here's a slug cat that can body flop on things and crush all their bones and then eat them, So it's kind of that level of like, now you've beaten the game with like the base mechanics. Here are like the challenge campaigns to just go nuts on. And I've already started one and I'm still having fun with it.
Okay.
So I could see as I beat those additional campaigns that this game like raises in my opinion. Right now I'm sitting at like a B tier for it. Like I would recommend it to people just like, hey, see if this is for you. You may really like it, but just know it's going to be bullshit at parts.
Okay. Fair disclaimer. Warning, bullshit.
You know what would make Rainworld extra hard though is if
Go ahead,
a little good guy doll with a knife was chasing after me with the voice of Jack Skellington.
I thought what did Dorif voice Jack Skellington?
Isn't he? Oh no, am I wrong?
All I know is that Danny Elfman sang Jack Skellington's song parts. I don't know who voices him normally. Anyway, we're gonna
Good stuff, guys.
Though I will say, one day, is it Nightmare Before Christmas?
Oogie's Revenge?
I'm doing the Kermit nod all the while.
One day we will do Oogie Boogie's Revenge. Oogie Boogie's Revenge is a fun game. Anyways, I played Chucky in Dead by Daylight. I haven't played Dead by Daylight in a fucking year because I started to get a little tired of it. It's kind of a very monotonous game and is very focused on like the multiplayer grind. It got heavy into season passes, and then how it does its multiplayer add-on content has been very lackluster. They even added the Xenomorph, the Nostromo, and fucking Ripley, and it's kind of all a whimper. However, it seems like that they tried really hard for this DLC. It is only Chucky, and it's pretty good. It has Dorif voicing it, and they did extensive reworks because obviously Chucky's not a normal killer. He's very tiny, so they had to adjust the camera. Instead of a first person for a killer, it's a wide angle, so you're able to see a lot. Because otherwise visibility would be a fucking nightmare. And it still kind of is, just in a different way than normal. And he's fucking fun as hell. I like it when a killer in Dead by Daylight, because the game is very asymmetric. So, in my opinion, asymmetry leads to you hating the other team, like with a passion. In like a normal fucking game, like Red versus Blue Halo or whatever, it's like whatever, it's chill. But like in a fucking asymmetric game, I hate the other people. I hate survivors when I'm killer. So like Chucky makes fun of and ridicules them and is able to murder them very fast and is all about quickness and like surprise attacks. So he's very dirty. He's like a dirty fighter. What do you mean?
How does Chucky kill?
basically he has like a dash mechanic. He builds up a meter, and when the meter's full, he goes into a stealth mode, which means that you can't hear him or anything. So it's like a little bit of a surprise, and you get like distractions as survivor.
Yeah, but like,
and
how does he do it? What's the method?
He uses a knife. He just uses a knife and then stabs you and then makes fun of you. And then like, because you have to hook people in the game, the ghost of Charles Lee Ray or whatever picks the person up. So that way Chucky doesn't have to pick up a grown
That's what I was
himself.
wondering about. When you said he was in the game, I was just picturing like, oh, he's handicapped because you have to drag people by a single foot to...
That would fucking suck. That would be awful. No, he's really fun, and I think he's like broken as hell. I think they're gonna nerf him a couple bits because always the killers that move fast are always the best. Like movement is what makes a killer in that game, and Chucky's got it, so they're gonna fucking nerf him to the ground.
They're gonna give survivors the ability to just kick him.
What are they gonna do once they add Sonic as a killer?
Oh my god, they're gonna add Sonic.exe.
Oh no! I'm sure they'll do a fucking creepypasta one day.
How long has Dead by Daylight been out? Because I feel like that is like the one asymmetrical, like multiplayer game that actually succeeded. Am I off base with that?
Yeah, it's stuck around. No, it's been around a long time. It's been around since at least 2015.
Okay, so that's 8 years, and they've got all these horror deals. Fucking Pinhead is in the game, which is
they got
weird to
Nicolas
me.
Cage.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
I forgot they added Nick Cage. Yeah.
Wait,
no. I mean they got a lot of killers. Like they got Sadako from
How does
Ring.
he kill? Sorry, how does he kill?
He's a survivor.
Oh, he's a survivor. Okay, fair enough.
Yes. Yeah, he runs around and just does that. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
It's a fun thing. I am back into it, and I will play it as long as Chucky's not nerfed.
Yeah.
So it'll be a good month for me.
So update on Nightmare Before Christmas. Chris Sarandon, who played Jack Skellington, was the detective in the first Child's Play.
Chris Sarandon was in Child's Play.
You know who's also
in
a detective?
Fright Night, and Fright Night was a really good movie. What's that?
You know who's also a detective?
Oh my God.
The great Herlock Sholmes from the Great Ace Attorney.
I wanted to ask a question, you Dee. I remember if you rewind years back, you modded your fucking 3DS to play this.
Correct. Well, yes.
Not just this, but you played this.
No, you're right. So yeah, like exactly, like rewind a couple of years back, and I had my old, my old 3DS, my like standard 3DS. I modded, which is easy, you know. It's not a big deal in reality, but to play to play Great Ace Attorney, because the fan translation patch for the first Great Ace Attorney was finished, second one in the works, and I was like, you know, this was like, I mean, now I'm not don't remember how many years exactly, but it was like 7 years maybe, I don't know. Basically, sort of, we were in the territory. We were like, okay, this is not gonna happen.
And then,
like, I did it. I played Great Ace Attorney, the fan translation. It was a good game, not like the strongest game in the series, but good. And after I finished it, couple weeks later, like 2 weeks later, they announced the official translation and Switch compilation of the two, and I guess this is what it was, kind of what David must feel like, except he actually has to pay money he actually paid money, whereas I just patched around with the fan translation. So I wanted to talk a bit about two, second one.
Is 2 better? Like what's
yes.
different?
Yes, but Two is a better game. Like it's very similar, and I want to make a parallel here to, like, a comparison to Ace Attorney Investigations 1 and 2, which are the Miles Edgeworth focused spin-offs, that also work quite differently. Like Great Ace Attorney,
You have to use logic chess.
Exactly. Great games, those, by the way, as well. I mean, I'm all about sort of, like later
You
games.
love to use logic chess. You love logic, you love chess.
I love both. I don't know which one I love more, actually. Yeah. It's, like two's one of the best ones. Like in the series, Ace Attorney Investigators 2. Anyway, those are actually pretty, like, those are separate games, a bit different, like completely different cast, different soundtracks. That is not the case for Great Ace Attorney and Great Ace Attorney 2, because those are actually one big story. So 2, it's like 1 is absolutely, like, it just leaves a couple cliffhangers or like open threads that then 2, like, 2 continues the story. They are clearly supposed to be played together. Like, there's certainly no point in playing just 2. That would make zero sense. And like,
it's like a Back to the Future 2 scenario where one just leads right into the other.
Yeah, but like, I mean, you can watch, I guess. I mean, I've only seen the first Back to the Future that just works as a standalone, and 1 is like clearly like it works, but like it has
dangling threads.
It has dangling threads. Exactly, like I said, like it's clearly it's pointing to. I mean, at the time it was pointing to a not yet released game. Now, obviously, then 3 years later, whatever, when it came out, it was there, and I'm just saying, like, they're not standalone. They're like they're essentially one big game, and Great Ace Attorney 2, but still separated, of course, which the result of which being Great Ace Attorney 2 being a more successful game, also because it can build on 1. You know what I mean? Like the impact, like it can sort of keep developing threads and characters and stuff like that from the first one. Whereas in the first one, maybe it's, like kind of it sort of
you're just finding out about them. Yeah. I mean, I had those feelings playing the original Ace Attorney trilogy, where it's like you learn about Larry Butts and like Maya and Mia, and like you learn the supporting cast, and like the supporting cast is really nice in the first game. I love the first game a lot, but like when 2 and 3 start to build on top, or like go back in time to reference other things, like all that stuff really starts to pay off. The setup.
Isn't that really the big appeal of the Ace Attorney series, is how like it has this giant reoccurring cast?
I disagree. I disagree actually completely with what you're saying. Because for me, like, all the Ace Attorneys up to that point are standalone games.
I agree.
I'm
okay, that's fair.
talking about a very different thing. Like, not the recurring cast, which obviously, yes, that's a great, like, you're even like Great Ace Attorney does, like.
But there's like plot threads. I'm sorry, I assumed the recurring cast was what was going on.
There's in the whole series. There's an arc certainly in the whole series, but like not one that where like the one game points to, like, already points to it remains kind of incomplete, pointing to the development of the next game. It's more like the next big game, like the next mainline game over that comes out and then continues the story, but not like it's not like the game before that sort of like it sort of already points to the next game and like kind of remains incomplete in that sense. Whereas with the Great Ace Attorneys, it's one big narrative, so it's like one big story, like that's it. So
okay.
It's a duology.
It's one big story split up in 2 games, and the second one obviously is on the second half, like, the where sort of things start pop off in a much bigger fashion than in the first one, because all these things that in the first one that lays the foundation are kind of hinted at, or like remain still big mysteries where you don't even know what that exactly means or whatever. All that stuff comes to a head in the second, and it's quite spectacular, I have to say. It's really quite amazing. even though I do have some minor scribbles, mainly the music, which is great. Well, the music that's there, it's great. It's just that it's one of the consequences of what I said is that it's like the only Ace Attorney game, that doesn't do for the sort of structural constants. So the objection theme, the interrogation themes, the turnabout theme, blah blah blah. You know those like staple
the famous
tracks.
Ones. Yeah.
It doesn't do new ones. It just they're the ones from Great Ace Attorney 1 because it's essentially one big game, right? So it does of course have plenty of new music for like, you know, like the investigate, like for like the different
areas
chapters,
or whatever. Yeah.
Characters. There's some fantastic fantastic tracks there, but you know there was no like new courtroom entrance, objection theme, etc., prosecutor theme to look forward to. Unfortunately, it's not a huge thing, but you know. Otherwise, I would say play those two games like together. That's kind of this is the best format to play them back to back. Even I would say, and it's great. I mean, they do so much cool stuff without adhering to sort of conventional way of like history. They like really they like really sat down and looked at like Victorian era London and were like, which aspect and like Meiji era Japan, and we're like, which aspects here do we want to sort of focus on and sort of make like I'm talking about like technological, medical, like scientific, etc. Restrictions and also like achievements that were new at the time, to like which ones of these are really like sort of emblematic and which ones are we going to turn into even like conceits or like certain motifs that will sort of that sort of symbolize, I guess, a certain or like to which we will give some symbolic value and also like make like recurring conceits for the cases and for like the forensic restrictions and the restrictions imposed on investigations based on lack of a certain scientific advancement that hasn't happened yet historically, but all the while like kind of giving the characters not like a winky, like fourth wall breaking sort of knowledge of it, not at all, but like still there isn't sort of a historicity there and some sort of dialogues and stuff like that where like the characters can even like they're saying like we don't have this yet, we can't determine this yet. They're not saying like but we will soon, or like
they're lampshading it,
but like they are sort of, I don't know what does that mean, lampshading it?
It just means to call attention to a
exactly
plot.
Yeah. Right. So they do really like, I think like basically for like most of the cases they really thought about the
period
like the period elements that and like what they afford them in terms of constructing these cases and so on. So and there's a lot of like anti-Japanese racism in the UK and so on, like stuff like that, like because it really like actually honing in on a very specific thing, like the sort of the treaty between UK and Japan at the time, and the modernization of westernization of Japan that really started in that era, and so on. So really smart, and in fact it's a bit more it's actually a bit on the conservative side in terms of the mechanics. You know how like sort of every Ace Attorney like comes up with sort of not many but like one or two like new mechanics
hooks or something.
Yeah, exactly. In that sense, there's like one sort of, if you still consider them two games, there's like really only one where it's like it's where you like have to convince a jury, basically. So you have like six, which is really fun because like it means like you have like six more sort of characters during a like a court case, a court session, so that all the while they chime in every now and then you then have to convince, because they're like, we're fair enough, we're gonna vote guilty here, and then you have to like sort of interrogate all of them and sort of pit their statements against each other to like show how they're like contradicting in the reasoning for voting guilty, and that like thus change their minds. So that's a really cool thing, but it's also the only really like on the mechanic side, it's like the only big like the only like quote unquote exclusive mechanic here. But it doesn't really need it, because it's quite something. And like, since Murph cited Sherlock Holmes, so like their take on Sherlock, I think it's a really fun one, because he embodies like all the sort of traits we kind of know from Sherlock Holmes. Like, he's really cocky, and so, but like at the same time he's really like chipper, and also he kind of intuits a lot of things like correctly, but like he's always like just shy of like from the truth. Like he's just like a little bit wrong on a lot of stuff.
He focuses on the wrong thing.
Yeah, and then you correct him, and then
he's like slightly, just a little bit
off, but then like you know, like you correct him, but then he like said like, yeah, exactly, and that's basically what I said, and so on. So it's actually really really cool. Big recommendation, also kind of timely, because actually now I just saw earlier there was a pre-order trailer for the second Ace Attorney trilogy, which will have 4, 5, and 6.
The Apollo Justice? Oh, wait,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I guess it's coming out soon, and actually 6 is like the one game I haven't played yet. But 4 and 5 are actually among my favorites. 4 is I haven't replayed it since I played it sort of close to when it came out, but sort of standing DD ranking, 4 is actually my favorite for its great atmosphere.
I'd have to think about it for me.
Yeah, I know it's for many it's like, well, I think most people like, but I haven't followed AA ranking discussions in a long time. Back then, people
I don't know any discussions. I don't know discourse for it. And also, I've only played up to 4. Like, I have not played the further games. Like, I haven't played Dual Destinies. Dual Destinies.
What did you say? Yeah, Dual
Destinies. Densities.
Yeah. Dual Densities.
I got Back to the Future on the brain, I guess. But yeah, no.
5's really fun.
I'll check them out. We'll go over it one day. Yeah. But until then, guys, we have to talk about it. It's time. I did not like Lies of P.
Okay, so inexplicably, all 3 of us have played this. Even notorious Souls-like hater DD, seemingly as a joke, but then also seemingly got into it. Brogan was given a review code.
Yeah.
That he didn't even know about until 2 weeks after they sent it.
His last review code from that day.
Yeah, clearly. Oh, oof.
So I hit credits on Lies of P last night. I was right at the ending, and then I sort of forgot I was at the ending. I thought I still had more to go. But then I was like, oh, I'm right at the ending. I'll just finish that off in time for the cast.
Mm-hmm.
I think this game is better than I thought it would be, but not as good as I wished it was. It rides a very thin line. I think the big issue with the game is the combat system, because it wants it to be very fast and reactive, like Sekiro and Bloodborne. But it's just weird. It's weirdly slow, like Elden Ring. And our Souls players in the audience may understand that. For those that don't know, for whatever reason, Lies of P is like one of the big, like, I guess some people are calling it a sleeper hit. It's Bloodborne Pinocchio. and it's from a studio no one's ever heard of from before. They're a South Korean developer, and I think this is the closest anyone's ever gotten to being a something that would trick other people into thinking this was a FromSoft release.
It's like I've said it before. It's like, for me, it's like a rare like B game, like a sort of a perfect encapsulation of what that used to be. Where it's like, this is like, this is from a dev with definitely like less funds, smaller size or whatever, but sort of being ambitious.
Yeah.
And like and kind of doing a lot right, like getting a lot, nailing quite a few things.
It's an actual 7 out of 10 game. Not what 7 out of 10 has come to mean in the gamosphere. Like we talked about with Octopath, this feels like a solid foundation for a sequel where they have the funding to do everything they want.
Yeah, except Octopath is a not solid foundation.
Okay, well, you said you were interested in a sequel.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying, Octopath is a much worse game than Lies of P. Like, yeah, I see what you mean. Like, both are, except
I'm more likely to beat Octopath than I will ever beat Lies of P.
Okay, so Brogan, what's your issue?
Yeah, let's go, Brogan. Let's go.
I have not beaten the game. Maybe the game magically gets better. And, maybe okay, no, first of all, let me just say, I've only a couple hours. If I were to do by progression, the giant robot boss after the donkey boss on the bridge. So probably like 2 hours, 3 hours, like very early in the game.
Basically, the first
first real boss. I beat him, and then I was like, this is not for me. This is not what I like.
Okay.
Well,
I will say, weirdly for a Souls-like, I think the bosses are overall the weakest part of this game. For whatever reason,
think about that.
The combat, the bosses get better as the game goes on.
Okay, let me just ask this: What is the thing to like most about the game?
I think it's interesting. I agree with Murph in the evaluation, but not in the reasons.
Okay.
But
the thing to like about the game is you're both gonna laugh. I do like that they commit to the bit of having it be grim, dark fantasy Pinocchio. I like that every character with a straight face says the puppets are going crazy and killing everyone.
I think that's the weakest aspect for me.
Okay, all right. Let me say what I don't like. First of all, I like Bloodborne a lot. I talk it down, but I only talk it down because people overhype FromSoft games. But playing this, for me, put into perspective what FromSoft does right. I don't think this is a bad game. However, with Bloodborne, all the values of what Murph likes in a game like this, I don't like. I like Sekiro. Sekiro is really good, but it was also a very curated experience built for its combat systems. Here, it feels like a weird mix of Bloodborne, a little bit of sluggishness, and then a Sekiro where pairing really fucking matters. And with those elements, it doesn't make a great stew for me. And then the Victorian public domain thing doesn't really click with me, especially since at the very least my initial exposure of the first few hours was a very it's the Victorian Bloodborne thing, but it has BioShock Infinite mech things. I don't like the robots. I think the robots are bad. They're lame. I don't like them.
It's bad. The enemies are bad. I think the entire world thing is bad. Sorry, but
that's my favorite bit. I love the aesthetic. I love the production design.
Yeah,
I don't know what to say here.
I'm okay. So since I felt like that, so I think I personally I would have could have agreed with Brogan, but I do think the game gets much better once you hit a certain array of combat options. So once you get all the different arms, can like maybe upgrade them once you get certain weapons and like certain like get like enough sort of points on your maybe like on your stamina meter, on your arm meter, blah 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 blah. And then I think once there was a clear point in the game for me where like once I hit that I was like I feel really good here, like movement, like I feel like really equipped, and it's still like challenging. And so I agree with Murph about the bosses, where like I would say like the early bosses are weaker than the later, but I would like because I think they're overtuned. They're too difficult at the start.
It feels like it is made for people
there.
that like Souls-like games.
The curve is not quite there. So, and now I'll say where I disagree, which is the 2 points exactly where I switch them totally around for me. So, I'll say just quickly on the world building sets and said it. I like the Pinocchio conceit. I'm actually reading. I'm almost done actually. I'm reading Pinocchio right now, like the original in Italian. And it's really fun to see like where they picked certain stuff, like how they like picked certain stuff, sort of where they like situated it in the game, and like how they sort of did their own take on it. It's quite, and like they clearly read like the original text. But I think the execution for me is disappointing because what happens is that you still have a very cliche array of enemies, like the puppets. The puppets are the most interesting, but then you have like the robots are boring. The zombie-like things are even more boring, and that's just kind of disappointing to me. Like I felt like they should they. I mean, I think that's where the limitations I guess show. Like it would have been much more work to sort of, create. Like I'll extend it to the environments here as well. Create sort of more original enemies and more original environments, which this game, like for me, this game doesn't have. Like if you critically went through most of the game, you would see that most of the designs aren't tied to, like, have nothing to do with Pinocchio. Like they're just very conventional enemy design, like video game enemy design. So I agree about the parts where it does do the Pinocchio thing, but for me it was disappointing how sort of little that was in the end. I
will say the arm thing sounds like the most interesting part of the combat. I feel like that and like
sick.
That and the ability, like, I don't know necessarily, I didn't get too far into the system of it, but like being able to swap out like the hilts or like the different components of the weapon itself for different things, I thought that was cool. I didn't think it would be enough for me to change my mind on them.
I'm not even using that. I just found one weapon that I really like. It's the katana, and it has a crazy moveset. It has a crazy rich moveset and like super mobile use set, where you can like parry a ton and so on. It's really like that really sort of that was the final puzzle piece for me where I was like, yep. Now and I want to quickly say something about the combat and the war, and also a bit about the Souls parallel.
Sure.
Because like kind of parallel to my playthrough. I'm not quite done yet, by the way, but I've played so much because I'm so slow that I feel quite qualified to talk about this. Because it's not much missing anyway. I actually watched a friend play large parts of Elden Ring, and I mean, he obviously went through it, but now put so many hours into it, but now eventually gave up because he was kind of frustrated with it, and I was frustrated watching it because I couldn't believe what this sort of what it ultimately amounted to. I felt like this is actually the lowest effort Souls game because of the open world, which actually is much easier to do than bespoke, but like still open-ish, but like bespoke open-ish design, where it's like you have to think about much more. It's much easier.
Is this gonna become an Elden Ring cast? Continue.
It's much easier to and I mean like I haven't even played it, but I'm being like obviously on thin ice, but I don't mind.
No. Here's
instead making this giant world where you just put in so many bosses, and like he was like he can't like he basically, and you pick up so many items, and it's just like quantity over quality, and he was like couldn't remember basically what he did in the game like before, and like because it's just like also forgettable. He was like looking for stuff to fight and looking for new things, but like half the time he would go somewhere and he was already way too strong, and he would like, so wouldn't even be a fun fight because the way they handled that open world structure clearly, for me, like it was obvious just from watching, and he confirmed it playing, like led to everything that I always talk about when I say like open world design. It has its place, but in the end, it's like much more challenging and much higher reward going for something more linear. It doesn't have to be like strictly linear, but like more linear than that and more bespoke. And Lies of P is really linear. In that sense, I guess a little bit less ambitious than Bloodborne, but I think still it's better for it. And I'll say that the combat, personally, I really enjoy. I think it comes down to how much you like pairing. I don't really see where it doesn't fit. I think it's a game where pairing is, let's say, rewarded quite a bit and quite satisfying. But I agree that I assume it's not as mandatory as in Sekiro, which means that it actually lets you get away with not doing so much. But I found it sort of really rewarding. A rewarding playstyle, and also sort of the playstyle where like then everything kind of clicks. Not everything. The game suffers from sort of having definitely some elements in there where they're like, I'm talking about the cubes, the gold coins, and stuff like that, like where they clearly just were trying to think of like sort of some stuff to like keep introducing during the game that shouldn't be there. Like there was fat to trim there in terms of some sort of quote unquote mechanics. That would be another criticism of mine. So yeah, that's kind of that's enough. I'm curious, I want to hear what you what you have to say now. I guess I made enough.
Who goes next?
Polemics.
Who goes
here.
So
Enough
okay,
polemics.
so for me, where the parrying for me, I love parrying in games. Usually when there's a parry mechanic, I get that down. Like the last time I played Bloodborne, I parried Orphan of Kos 3 times in a row and annihilated his first phase.
Parrying in Bloodborne is very unique for a parry system.
Mm-hmm. So
because it's a gun thing.
Yeah, so for this, I think just like the window for perfect parrying is too narrow, especially for how reliant you are on it for some of the... How do I want to phrase this? A lot of the bosses delay the shit out of their attacks, where it's like they'll raise up and it's like, oh, and then they'll like hit in 2 frames. And those are always the hardest ones to parry, because you really have to learn the timing, especially on the perilous attacks that like you can't dodge out of. But weirdly, anytime the boss is just like attacking fast and it's just like a real flurry of movement, those ones are always easy to perfect parry because you get into a natural rhythm of the combat.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Especially if you're playing with heavy weapons like me, in which case you can typically break a lot of enemy weapons, and that's super satisfying.
Totally.
As far as the weapon like crafting system, it's sort of... I like the idea a lot, that every weapon has a handle and it has a blade, and the handle is the moveset, and the blade is what you actually upgrade. So, you never run into that issue of, like, you find a weapon that seems cool, but you've already sunk all your upgrade resources into whatever your current build is. And so you don't necessarily want to swap over. But in this, it's like, oh, if I like the moveset of this weapon, just swap the blade you have, upgraded, onto that. Boom, new moveset, and you've lost, like, no damage. I think the issue is that a lot of the weapons are sort of like, the blade and handle they're paired with usually turn out to be what they're best suited for, especially with the Fable Arts. And the other issue is that the boss weapons that you get which is a very Dark Souls 3 mechanic where you trade in a boss's soul for a unique weapon. Those ones can't
do that in all of them, Murph, by the way.
It's just the first one I thought of.
Devastating.
Those boss weapons can't be deconstructed, and they usually have like the coolest movesets. The katana Didi mentioned, that's a boss weapon.
Yeah, so good.
And so now the thing that's really cool about Lies of P is that they just give you a shit ton of upgrade resources as you get into the back half of the game.
And
I had
also,
multiple weapons fully upgraded.
Yeah, and weapons also, like there's a ton of weapons as well.
Okay, so I have some fundamental parrying mechanical questions here. I don't know if these can be answered. But here's like my POV, and maybe you can enlighten me to how the game goes. First of all, does parry window timing change between weapons?
No. The only thing a weapon affects regarding parrying is if you guard, how much damage you end up taking when you guard, and how much damage you deal to the enemy's weapon when you perfect parry.
And like stagger you apply,
Okay, so like
but
I
not
guess
the only factor, by the way. It's also obviously your stats and so on. And like
I guess I want to
you have equipped and sorry.
I guess I want to explain like my POV when it comes to like appreciating these games is like for Bloodborne it hits like kind of a soft gray spot, but Sekiro to me is like if you like FromSoft combat, Sekiro's the answer, and Bloodborne is like it's not cowardly way, but it's like a gray zone between Souls and Sekiro. And if what you like is Bloodborne, then you should like Sekiro. Because like the thing is like Sekiro is tight and focused combat, and like the delays or everything are like. I guess that's the other thing I wanted to know regarding enemy rhythm in this is like in Elden Ring, you're right. There's so many fucking bosses and they all do fucking weird aggro and delayed attack timing because that's how FromSoft thinks you guys like combat, right? Like that's just how they've evolved boss design over this time. And so with that, I'm wondering if it's like that approach where it's like bosses feel kind of slapped together. Sekiro has those timings. However, each boss is meticulously made to where it feels like its own natural rhythm. There's only one weapon in Sekiro, and all the other side stuff are to complement or compensate if the base game is not, like, if you're not clicking with the specific moment. So I'm wondering, like, I guess I'm wondering in the essential combat, if it works or gets better or is more or is satisfying enough, like you know what I'm saying here?
I think
how tight is its design?
I think Pavlos said it best when he said that a lot of it feels overtuned, where it feels like they had like their first wave of testers attack a boss and like they beat it pretty quickly, and they were like, okay, let's switch up the timing of its attacks. Let's give it like an AoE thing. And then the second wave goes in, and then they beat it. And it's like, well, it's still too easy, clearly. Let's add more things it can do. So for me,
and it doesn't really change. It's just that the main difference is that the difference in empowerment in terms of the character,
and every boss
gigantic.
has two phases.
Like after this 4th or 5th chapter, I would say it's like where you're like, okay, this is where like sort of the largest. So after that, it's like obviously further increases, but like diminishing returns. But that's kind of where you like start when you're like reach the state where you are pretty much feature complete in a sense. But up to that, I think it's like after 5th chapter. Yeah, 5th must be the gang that you fight. Like those are challenging. I would say like they're like those fights. It's not like they're not fun. I mean, I you saw me play through that fire boss, like do like a million runs on him, and like, you know, now the further I go, the fewer runs I need on these bosses in a way. Like, not in a way, like that's how it is. Like, I'm doing them more like quicker and quicker. Because
Brogan,
I'm so powerful now.
you know the conceit of like Melania, where it's like the time you beat her is the time she does waterfowl strike the least.
Yes.
That's how a lot of the bosses in Lies of P felt to me. It's like, okay, we're doing good because the boss hasn't done the one move I don't have an answer for. You know?
I see.
I would say for some bosses that I can see that, yeah. Like there was one boss where like, basically, if it did a certain routine, it was really annoying because it meant like it was running around and like.
I know exactly what boss you're talking about, just through the sentence running around.
Yeah, and like if it hit like with the pixel of his fucking the side of his butt or whatever, which honestly I could, looking at the screen, I didn't even see the connection, like the touch, like, didn't even see the two models connecting really, but that did a ton of damage. It did like half the health bar. Basically like I was doing like I had the. For me, a big issue for like the bosses just in general were just the two phases, because it's like a lot of the time I was just I could do the first phase in my sleep basically. Like I had it, like it was, I guess it was still sometimes satisfying to do like an actual like almost perfect run of it, or like a bit of a slop, some were a bit sloppy or whatever, but basically I had it down pat. Like the fact that I still have to prove to the game that I can do this, the first phase, like have to do it over and over, I'm not a fan of that. I don't think
because you get through the first phase, it gets to the point where you're getting through the first phase so easily, but then you get to the second phase and they do the one move you don't have an answer for and you die.
Yeah, or like you get to the second phase and like you have let's say it takes maybe like you have to get there a couple times to even learn the moveset of the second phase. Mm-hmm. But then along the way, you will maybe, out of frustration, still then die to the first one a while because you still don't have it like completely down. And like, it's just that's the second phase stuff I didn't like at all.
And for people who, because second phase may have different connotations for people, this is a circumstance where you decrease a boss's health bar completely, then you get a cutscene of them powering up, and then it's like a new boss has begun with a full health bar. It's not a circumstance of you get them down to half and they do like a rage attack to back you off.
It's Sister Frida in Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, actually, there are a few bosses like that.
See, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
And so...
Anyway, I mean, I think Murph and I still, despite sort of our different,
what we like and dislike about it, we're still coming to the same place of this is a solid B.
This is a solid, I thought it was like a solid, I mean, I still haven't quite finished it, but it's solid and like you can
solid
still
B.
commend.
More like solid P. Sorry.
Okay.
No, I think we're done.
DD, you want to start our own podcast?
Well, can I? Do we have to do like a story of seasons like type thing with a name because I don't have the rights to?
Yeah, I now own it. Oh, that's guys, are you ready for the variety minute?
Yeah.
So ready.
All right.
You guys, how long? You don't do like Animal Crossing Minute anymore?
No.
I
hate to bring that shit.
It was actually us. I think it was still like in our era. I think when we killed that. But I forget what we did back then. We did like.
I remember when you got super excited over Shark Week. There was like Shark Week, and you were like, "Let me spend 5 minutes talking about sharks in Animal Crossing." I was like, "All right, dog, whatever."
I think a while we also played like each game from the big bundle.
Oh, that was nice. We should do that. Murph likes doing like itch.io games and stuff. We should do an itch.io minute. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, itch.io minute. Yeah.
Anyways, this week's variety minute is Disney games. Mostly Donald Duck, but there's a lot of Disney games. I like Mickey Mouse games a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's the best place for Mickey Mouse because otherwise he's, kind of boring.
Yeah. This is like just being a blank generic avatar works as a video game character. I think the Illusion games, not always, but largely speaking, if it's got Illusion as a title, it's worth checking out at least. And there's Donald Duck's in at least one of them as a co-op partner. So I love those.
Except one, which is one of the worst games I've ever played. Just that breaks the rule.
Which one's that? Do you remember that one?
Yeah,
it's
Epic
hard
Mickey,
to remember the names.
Disney's Epic Mickey Power of Illusion, which is a 3DS game. That is abysmal. That is terrible. That is
and they used that title specifically because
they knew what they were doing.
They knew what they were doing. Yeah. No, they fucked up.
Anyway, but yes, otherwise I agree. Illusion games, good.
And it's weird. It feels like a lot of the because you'll see them once in a while. It's like it feels like a lot of the Disney re-releases are specifically about 90s nostalgia for Disney Renaissance and Toon Disney stuff. But in my head, the only time I saw oh shit was the Saturday Morning collection with the Capcom bundle because Capcom made some amazing Disney games back in the day.
Definitely some good one. I recently replayed Darkwing Duck, which is always one of my favorites because kind of Mega Man light.
Yeah.
And it was, I had it's really good in my head. It's good. I think the one that really sort of holds up as amazing is absolutely DuckTales. That's a killer. DuckTales 2 also quite good. But Darkwing Duck pretty good and Chip and Dale is I'm not huge on it solo. It's fun multiplayer.
It's definitely one built for co-op.
Yeah, Tailspin is also I'd say decent, not great. But it's really weird. I still don't get on Switch we get the fucking Aladdin Lion King collection with all the versions for that and Jungle Book I think in it, and now they're doing this Gargoyles game next with a sort of where you can toggle between the original SNES and a new sort of look for it. And there was one more where I was okay, why? But they still haven't ported Afternoon Collection to the Switch. Really, really strange. Anyway,
there is only one Goofy game I like, and that is Goof Troop.
I've played Goof Troop. I used to play that with my cousin.
Goof Troop's a good game.
What about Goofy's Funhouse for PS1?
What about Goofy Extreme Skating?
What about that? But what about Goofy's Funhouse though? I rented that. I rented that at a time. I rented that twice with Super Mario Sunshine, which means that the GameCube was out and a thing, PS2 GameCube, and I rented Sunshine and twice the PS1 game Goofy's Funhouse, which
was it good?
It's not.
How fun was that house?
The house was fun. The game was not.
Goofy's Funhouse is emblematic. I am more familiar of Disney games that are sort of the the interactive play places. I had those. I had a Winnie the Pooh one. I had an Aladdin one. I had a Toy Story one. And that's what it's just a bunch of mini game collections and animated shorts linked together with tenuous menus. Mm-hmm. Any of you play Disney's Villain's Revenge?
No.
For Windows?
Oh my gosh. Pass.
That was a wild one because that had that was one of the first ones to have FMV cutscenes for their computer games, and they had all the original voice cast. I mean, give or take. I mean, they didn't have the original voice for the Evil Queen, but the premise is that all the villains, including the ringmaster from Dumbo, steal the happy endings out of the big book of Disney, and you, the player, have to chase them down and get back the good endings, and they're all nightmare scenarios. Like
I could go for some happy endings right now.
Peter Pan's an old man. Alice has been decapitated.
You want Hook to do it, Varun? So, yeah. He'll take care
Captain
of you.
Hook to just left hand right there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask y'all, how many Donald Duck games have you played?
Quackshot.
Yeah, I just focused on Donald Duck games for my prep for this minute because it's just too many Disney games. So I've tried to highlight. Here are the ones that, because there's quite a few, of course, and also quite a few Japanese exclusive ones also. The
Japanese love Donald. They love DuckTales.
They love them. We all love him. I love Donald, by the way. I mean,
Donald's probably
he
the
was
best.
one of my heroes growing up from the comics, though. Well, and the shorts.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing.
Disney shorts and the comics, Donald. Yeah.
I think Goofy has better solo movies. However, I think Donald and like the entire Duck pantheon with the Banks like comics, like Scrooge McDuck, all of them, like that's the ultimate best.
And that lends
but
itself
I like Goofy in film.
That lends itself to games because they're all adventure stories. Like our game of the week, they're all globe-trotting adventures with sometimes like really high concepts, but they just like embody this sense of fun and exploration that really lend themselves to games.
Yeah, those comics are marvel. So I'll start with one actually quick mention. Donald Duck's Playground for the Commodore. It's actually quite a classic educational game, and I think a really fun one. Like really good one, sort of one of those. I mean, it's an educational game, but still actually had like quite a sort of nice array of activities. Then I think when we're talking about sort of like very like Donald in a platformer or whatever, we have to talk about. I always considered them like kind of a connected, which is even though there were some games in between that, and that's including Quackshot, but I would Lucky Dime Caper for the Master System, and then some games in between. But then later on the Genesis, Mega Drive, Deep Duck Trouble, because
you're basically going by the Sega of Japan development, right? That's what you mean, right?
I mean, like I'm talking about Donald Duck games, the chronology of Donald Duck games.
No, but like I'm saying, like you're saying, like you lump these together because of their development heritage, right?
Yes, and because they're like just kind of similar mechanically, so to speak, and like level design wise and stuff like that. Because then you have World of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, and on the Mega Drive, and Disney, the Magical Quest series, which is actually good. Like those are great Mickey games, especially like really like the first one. The third one for Super Famicom, so Japan exclusive, had Donald as well. So. That's also like World of Illusion. Those are two games where Mickey and Donald are the two playable characters. And World of Illusion is actually, and also Land of Illusion, which was Game Gear. Those are actually quite relevant for Quackshot because that was more or less there was like huge overlap in the team for those games. But continuing after Deep Duck Trouble for Mega Drive, then we have Maui Mallard and Cold Shadow, which is SNES game where Donald's kind of a ninja type.
Well,
he has a lot of jobs.
This
motherfucker.
Maui Mallard is one of the weirdest ones because it's not based on any like existing Duck universe property. It's like, what if Donald was the star of a Magnum PI type show where he was also a ninja?
Yeah. It was always kind of confounding to me. I thought this was a Broken favorite, but I guess not. Continuing.
Quackshot was my favorite. It's why I suggested Quackshot.
Okay. Yeah, continuing. It's definitely not my favorite, but continuing, we have Donald Duck Going Quackers, which is actually a game of my childhood, and a very interesting one because it actually had, depending on how you count it, sort of 5 different versions. So we have the N64. So we have one sort of bundle of consoles here that had the same version, which was Nintendo 64, PC, and Dreamcast. I had the PC version, by the way. Then you have PS1, which has some differences, but it's mostly just the worst version of those. Like it's kind of the sort of a worse stripped down version of that bundle. Then you have the PS2 and GameCube versions of that game, which are actually pretty actually really different, because it's a very different level design, boss, etc. So really different game. I have later on I picked up the PS2 version as well. I prefer the first, the N64 PC Dreamcast. Then you have the Game Boy Color game, which is actually really nice looking, very very nice looking game, and it's kind of decent. Yeah, it's a fun platformer, actually fun Game Boy Color platformer. And then you have the GBA version, which is different than the Game Boy Color version, not as good in my opinion. So kind of 5 different versions of that game. I mean, PS1 sort of.
It's always fascinating to see, like, they could have ported a lot. You know what I mean? Like, they just developed 5 separate games for different consoles. That's so weird. I think I played Going Quackers as a McDonald's GameCube kiosk. I think that's the only time I've ever played it.
I would say it's fun. I would say it's like it's like, especially the N64 PC Dreamcast version. It's like it has like Crash Bandicoot type 3D sections and 2D sections as well. And like there's a Donald getting angry mechanic, similar to the one that's underused in Quackshot. Yeah. And so on. And the final game I want to highlight here, because I actually also played it as a kid. I got it later because I wanted it, but as a kid I played it with friends quite a bit. And that's Disney's PK, Out of the Shadows.
I was going to mention it. I just want to say, if you ever imagine a PS2 era platformer, like a generic cartoon platformer, for me, I don't imagine PK, but box art, just all of it's this is what PS2 platforming was.
It's a bit it always reminds me of Sly Cooper a little bit.
Yes.
I don't know. I really like PK. I have to say, I really like that persona for Donald. I always liked it in the comics as well, the new, in the obviously not the.
It's his Duck Dodgers.
Yeah, but
oh yeah, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah. So, and it's, I don't know. It's like you're right. It's it really is like a sort of emblematic game in the sense of licensed game, pretty good, not great, but I appreciate it. I don't know. It's exactly the kind of licensed game I appreciate. Of that, very much of that era. By the way, PS2, GameCube, Xbox, GameCube best version. In that case, we're talking also here about we're talking about this era where not like now where there's basically no difference between PS5, Xbox or whatever. It's not. It's maybe some small performance stuff or whatever. But back then it was really big differences between these. There were usually was always a clear, clearly preferable version.
And GameCube often had a technical edge to it. But that being said, it also depended on what the actual developers were optimizing for.
These days, it would be the PS5 version. You can exclusively play as Gus Goose or something.
Timed exclusively.
Yeah. Just content stripped out of it.
And if I may, I'll give a cheeky bonus game here, which is actually it's a Daffy Duck Daffy Duck game, and I think it's my favorite Daffy Duck game, and it's Daffy Duck.
We're completely off script. That's a completely different company.
I don't care.
He just wants to mention it.
Yeah. Because,
we could have made the Variety Minute Duck games.
The next time, we could have actually, yeah.
Would Untitled Goose Game count, or is that?
That's a goose.
What the fuck? No, no. But
oh,
listen,
you can include Daffy Duck, but I can't include Goose Game. All right, I see how.
I don't know when you'll have me back on again, so I have to like.
He has to get it all out.
Yeah, it could be another 2 years. So, and next up, here's my investment recommendations that I have for you guys. And Foul Play on the Game Boy Color is a fun thing, fun platformer. Where you and I really always loved its look. That's all. Now we can move on.
All right, everyone. Is it time for the game of the week?
Did you know if you take Kingdom Hearts 3 as canon, Donald Duck is the most powerful mage in Square Enix history?
Okay. We're going to ignore that. We're just going to ignore that.
Did you hear something? I didn't hear anything.
Okay, good. I'm glad we agree. All right. This week's game of the week is Quackshot, released in 1991 for the Sega Genesis. You play as Donald Duck on the search for King Garuzia's ancient treasure. To do this, you're going to fly all around the world and go on little adventures in the levels. There's multiple mechanics, but the two I really want to highlight before we begin that lay the foundation here are the plunger as the primary weapon and the flag system of checkpoints. The main weapon is a plunger that can get 2 upgrades throughout the game, but mainly stuns enemies and provides platforms for walls, and it can also later on grab onto flying enemies. There is no save system and no password system. The levels are meant to be revisited back and forth, generally kind of maybe, using flag checkpoints at specific locations. I'm not going to go further on. Let's just have the conversation.
You don't
Gentlemen,
use them, right? They just happen automatically, so to speak.
Yes. You don't choose it. It's at specific moments.
I want to add one like info type thing.
Okay.
If I may, which is
you didn't want to do this, but go ahead.
I said I would compliment. I said I would like add when I thought like something was missing, and it's just that Emirin, who's the pseudonym for Emiko Yamamoto, she was a like pretty like important figure at Sega, like sort of, she her first like game where she really was sort of had like a prime responsibility was Castle of Illusion, which is a great game, and that being the game designer there sort of netted her the game design and director position for Quackshot, and also for World of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. So she was kind of the sort of the head of these three like Mickey/Donald games, and also the other parts of the team also. Those games share other parts of the team as well. And yeah, so I just wanted to highlight her also, because women developers also, always going overlooked.
Are we good?
Yeah. Was that not a good info piece?
No, it was good. You could have just said it during the thing. No, I saw it good. No, it was good. It was good info. Good factoid. I agree.
That was my old style. That's how I would have done it back in the day.
The new style is say, gentlemen, what did we think of Quackshot? And now you can say whatever you want about Quackshot.
Pavlos, you're the guest.
She did she was a field artist on Sonic Riders. Anyway,
He's just reading Wikipedia highlights. He has nothing to say about the game.
Producer and what is a DIJ? Disney's Magical Mirror.
The entire time you're like, wow, Pavlos is really learned about all.
I'm just noticing.
Reading.
I'm just reading Moby Games, which is I recommend to everyone. But like I'm just noticing that all these games, Disney's Magical is starring Mickey and Minnie for
what are the opinions on Quackshot?
This starring thing is certainly.
Pavlos, you're not the host anymore. Just sit down.
Okay, all right. So Quackshot. Quackshot's, it's this, it's this adventure game, like Murph said earlier. I think right off the bat, the first thing that kind of really pops is how great it looks and animates. Really sort of vibrant colors, and just very expressive animation. All the locations are like really, have their own like really distinct like color palette. So it's, first, right off the bat, it's like a great looking game, and that's also a staple for a lot of these Disney games, from especially on the Sega consoles, but also on also the Magical Quest games on Famicom and SNES. So I think maybe we could talk about the look first.
I like all the sprite work in this game. I think the camera's too close. I think that makes a lot of the combat's a strong word, but it makes it just led to a lot of damage. I feel like was unavoidable because it's so zoomed in,
and it's coupled with Donald's limited movement. And I don't mind Donald's limited movement, but with the camera, you can go into situations where you move forward and you're like, oh wait, oh no, I got hit.
It's a little.
Thankfully,
it's a
this game's also forgiving.
Yeah,
you hit quite you take quite a few hits, and it's because old-time listeners will know I always toot this horn. Big sprites, bad. Big sprites, bad. And I mean, I like, but Murph is also right. Like, obviously, it's always a combination of like, size of the sprite in relation, to the size of everything else and the screen. Format, or like the zoom, etc. Like, so, but like ultimately the result is the sprite is too big in relation to everything else. Big sprites is, I've always sort of highlighted this, and here it's like I found it still the movement quite fluid, but yes, because fucking Donald's big ass is so big.
He has a very biz casual stride.
Yeah, you take a lot of hits, but I will say that I like that how after you get hit, you still have you have like air control and stuff like that, at least.
And the invincibility frames are like long. It's very forgiving.
Yes, it's very generous. I found the platforming to be kind of floaty. It was difficult to do precision jumps, which it doesn't ask of you often. Yeah. I think my overall issue with the game is that it's just like too short feeling. A lot of the levels are like
too Did you say thort?
Short.
Thort?
Short.
Okay, we heard the same thing though.
Yeah. Yes. No, but I agree. No, part of me likes how short it is, but it's so weird because if you look at like labels on the internet or whatever, people will label it you can see on Wikipedia, it says Metroidvania on there. Obviously it's not, at least by modern standards, but like, especially back when Metroidvania as a term was evolving, I think people were just throwing it around on anything that was unconventional level systems here. And like the level system does encourage you in an adventure game way to be like, oh yes, that one thing, I gotta go back over here now and solve the problem over here. That's why the flags function like that, is because there's no save system and there's no password system. It does know with the adventure game elements that you need to go back to these places. So the flags are essentially there to be like, oh, you got the thing, you passed the one part of the level, you don't have to do that again. There are sometimes you have to backtrack, but I think they are cleverly designed. A good, so it doesn't really matter that much. I think one of the easier backtrack segments for me, for instance, was like right after you get the plunger and you go back to Duckburg and you need to get the bubbles or whatever, and you have to go back through the cityscape, it's 10 times easier. The plunger kind of trivializes things, and then it super trivializes things on the way back. So I think the game is smart about how it goes back and forth, but it is bizarre in a few ways, especially with how short things are.
Yeah. It kind of can't really unfold. But, you know, the thing is with the flag thing, it seems kind of... unusual at first, but what it essentially is, if we're being honest, is like a sort of level 2, like Sonic, like
Act 1, Act 2.
Act 2. Except that Act 2 doesn't happen right after Act 1. You go somewhere else first, and then which is still, you know, still enough. Like, it still gives it a little bit of a spice, of a novelty.
It gives it a good theming of a globe-trotting adventure, because you'll get to, like, a place in Egypt, and it's like, you can't get inside the pyramid unless you have the Sphinx's tear, and you don't know where that's going to be, but then you go to India, and it's given to you as a gift in exchange for beating a tiger.
Yeah.
Is that tiger, like, Shere Khan's head with, like, a pot belly?
It's a weirdly fat tiger, I think because it breathes fire.
Was it more of a Jungle Book or a Aladdin tiger for you?
Jungle Book is Shere Khan. For me, I saw Shere Khan's head. It's just
Aladdin.
the bodies.
I did see Raja. More.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we win.
Well.
Yeah. No, but it was a bit for me. It was a bit kind of the Darkwing Duck thing, where like I had this in my memory, the game was like slightly better than it ended up being for me this time. I had some complaints, which and also some other positives I could still name. But like to name another positive, for example, the plunger thing is fun, especially climbing walls, because once you figure it out, you can like zoom up walls, because what you do is like you basically shoot the plunger mid jump, and then you will like land on it immediately. You jump up, shoot the plunger ascending, like mid ascension, and like there's a rhythm there that I found super easy to like. Once I like found it, I was like I could just reproduce it like easily, and it was actually super fun to like just zoom up walls real quick. That was actually really fun. But music for me was very uneven, I will say.
I didn't like a lot of the music in this game.
There's especially one track that plays, but essentially like all sort of insides, like in the pyramid and others. It's like kind of, you could call it like an underground theme or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
SMB underground, like, and that was really those were the old like Mega Drive Genesis farts that you hear about. The farty sound chip. Then, and the level design was hit or miss for me. There was some I can name like 2 examples where like I just was not enjoying it. The one was the labyrinthian thing in the palace.
The Maharaja's palace, that was bad.
It didn't even take me so much, but it just didn't feel satisfying. It didn't even take me so long, but like, and the other one was the thing with the ghosts, where like, the big ghost that split into all the little ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
That's frustrating.
You just get hit there. I don't even, because again, Donald has a big
booty.
Yep. And you just get hit there. I mean, it's like, I don't like, it's just random. You can't dodge it.
It almost feels like you have to have like a perfect run leading up, because there's technically 2 infinite hallway ghost segments, and both of them I feel like you have to get like the run right before you get to them, or else you're kind of like fucked. But otherwise, like, I don't know, I think it's definitely uneven. I would agree with the word uneven. For me, the moments where I complained the most were moments where I didn't have control of Donald in like a particular way, like hanging onto the birds, or if I was hanging on the wires in Duckburg, any moment like that where I'm sort of sitting there waiting,
Well, with the bird
stressed.
you can move it, right? When you're
yes, but even then, like for me, it's like I don't know. It's the alternative mobility. As much as I just complained about Donald's mobility,
right.
I felt like those segments held me back a little bit.
There's also the weapons. We should mention that where you you get upgrades to the plunger, which is not like so significant, but and then the bubble and the
popcorn.
Like spread shot, exactly, popcorn, which I used on some bosses, but it like has very very limited ammo.
It is like the best weapon, but yeah.
Yeah. The bubble, I think it was really good on one boss, where like you could basically cancel, like you could like, it was like, which one was it? I think
was it Dracula? Oh no.
Or maybe Dracula, where you could like hit him as it was coming toward you, and if you hit him with the bubble, which is like essentially like a close-up weapon, like basically like you hold it in front of you and let the enemy run into the bubble. It actually negated his damage, like the body of the boss would also do damage to you, but once you hit him, he wouldn't, and so actually you would hit him right as he was about to hit you, hit the bubble, and you wouldn't take a hit from his body. So there was actually sort of a bubble fight. I think so it was supposed to be a bubble fight.
I wish you could swap weapons with a press of a button rather than opening a menu and selecting what you want to have equipped for the half second you'll need it.
If there was ever a remake, they would like map that to the shoulder buttons or something.
Even like Mega Man, it's all the Mega Man games. Like that was a very, I don't know why that never happened until like later. I guess it's like such a trigger thing. Although SNES had trigger anyway, but I guess you could. For me, it's like this. I could, since this is not getting a sequel, right? Like I could see sort of a fan patch, which sort of does like Quackshot. I don't know.
Quackshot reshot.
25th anniversary, or did that pass? Did you say when it came out? I think 91, right? Was it 91?
Yeah, 91.
Yeah, so like Quackshot 25th anniversary edition, well, no, that passed. Sorry, Jesus.
It's done.
That's done.
We're
30, 40 year anniversary edition. 55th year.
50 years of Quackshot.
50 years of Quackshot. Like and like fan, like what they could do is sort of some new music. Maybe like enhance every zone, kind of give it a third act, add some new ones, add like one or two more weapons, quick weapon switch, just kind of beef it up a little bit. Like,
did y'all play the DuckTales remake? The DuckTales remake was pretty good.
I
mean, not as
DuckTales.
good as like the NES version, but like in terms of things, like if they were to make a quote unquote Quackshot whatever, like for me, like doing it like the DuckTales remaster would be fine enough for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't remember liking it so much, but I guess you mean like in terms of
production value, specifically in terms of look and voice. That's
the one thing I didn't like. One of the things I didn't like, actually, the look and the voices. But
I don't know what to tell you, Pavlos. Here's what I will say.
I mean, you don't have to change anything about the look in Quackshot.
Okay.
It looks fantastic. No, I think it looks. I mean, it's always been highlighted as a strength of the game, like how nice it looks.
I agree. Okay, I have two thoughts. Number one. It's fucked that Daisy is not happy with the statue. What the fuck?
Well, let's be honest. Daisy, I mean, one of my favorite shorts, and I think a life-defining short, is Crazy Over Daisy. Do you know this one?
Isn't that her second appearance, or?
It's like the one where Donald is on the way to meet her on his bike. And then he gets fucking attacked by the, like, not yet Chip and Chap, but the little those guys, and like he gets messed up. then obviously because they just attack out of nowhere, like they did nothing to provoke him. To provoke
Well, I
him.
mean, they're just assholes.
Then he finally
in that time
gets
period.
they're just assholes. Then he finally gets revenge. He puts him into the wheels of the bike, like little wheels, hamster wheels, so to speak. And then when he arrives, he has flowers and chocolate for her, ready to they had.
He's trying to seal the deal.
Yeah, they had a rendezvous.
He's trying to get a good. Trying to get a good deep ducking.
She comes out from the house, and here's the thing that always confused me. Basically, she spots from pretty far away. She does like she stops and goes like like a little sort of gasp of indignation. Because she see, and like I always wondered how can she see from so far away behind him, like on the street, on the bike, the little chipmunks in the wheels, like she must have like crazy good vision. Anyway, then she slaps Donald and like takes like has like pity on the little things. And
she may not be the best girlfriend.
You said that this was a
dumps
foundational cartoon for you.
It's one I think about a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I also sing the song. It has a song.
Typically women don't like it when you torment small animals in front of them.
It's not like this. It's a more oblique inspiration. It's not about the. It's not as simple as that.
Okay.
It's not about the content. It's like
it's about the vibes. I get it.
It's about the vibes. Donald is empty, like leaves empty-handed, and yeah, it's dumb.
Okay, all right. The other thing I was gonna say is like for me, and I've talked about this a little bit before, in my opinion, with platformers. I think what's really special about platformers and why they're never really gonna go out of style is like one mechanic or one little nook or one little cranny is like enough to like still be elaborated on and like explored. I feel like the plunger is not really explored enough. Obviously, there's a lot of things not explored enough in this game, such as the anger system, which we'll get to in a second. But the plunger itself is such a very smart platforming tool that I feel like you could just see it in an indie game. Like any indie game would be like, oh, this has the fucking Quackshot plunger, and that would be a game. That would be a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's weird that they give you two other weapons that are sort of like, oh, the popcorn is for when you want to like kill an enemy in front of you. The plunger only stuns. But it's like it stuns for such a long period of time that by the time you've walked, like you can just bypass most enemies once you've stunned them. It's not like, you got to stun them and there's a narrow window. You know, it may as well just be killing them because you're not going to deal with them again typically.
Right.
It really, the popcorn is only like, I use that for bosses more than anything.
Yep.
Right. I agree that the plunger. That's what I mean. You know, Quackshot 50th anniversary edition will it needed more for everything. For like every part of the game needed just more fleshing out. You know what I mean?
They're gonna add in the BFP, the big fucking plunger.
Okay. All right.
I like
here's the
slide. I like the slide.
I like the slide. It's a very good slide.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Oh yeah. Probably his best movement tool, just in general. I just like it. The anger system. Here's the thing about the anger system. Is it's really only viable three times.
It's like in 2 levels.
I only got it once.
Yeah. No, there's 2 times. For sure you get it in Duckburg, and for sure you get it in, and then I think it's like Egypt. Pretty sure it's Egypt.
Yeah.
Or no, it's
No, I think you're right.
It's Egypt. Yeah, you get the peppers there, but if you die, your rage resets.
Well then you're fucked. It's not that useful.
What? It's like they introduce it in the first level as if it's gonna be like this thing that will, you know, fucking should have given it to me against the ghosts, for example. Or
Donald's rage meter is on screen. It is part of the UI, ever present. You are meant to be thinking about his bubbling, boiling rage. And it's only used once in any
it's
real
like-
capacity.
Honestly, you were right though. Putting the rage in the ghost hallway would be sick. That's a level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where you're
like-
just going ape shit.
That's a
with
storytelling
ghosts.
mechanic. Donald gets so fed up with these ghosts in these infinite hallways that he goes apeshit.
Yes. Oh my god.
Added like an insanity meter as well.
yeah, like Eternal Darkness.
Oh man.
I lost my train of thought. So I was busy thinking of Eternal Darkness with Donald Duck.
Is the
Donald Duck
game
with tank
good?
controls.
Wait, let's
Did
talk
y'all like
quickly
it?
about the final boss fight. What'd you think?
So against that knight,
Yeah.
that didn't feel like much of anything because he kind of throws
Yeah.
his sword and then stands there and let you wail on him a lot. I beat that boss really quickly. That was the only boss I didn't need a second attempt on.
Can you do more? I thought I only did like 2 hits per cycle. Because I couldn't tell if more shots even did damage. I think the plunger just falls off of him, like bounces off of him.
But you can still stun him and hit him with the popcorn.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, no, I did plunger only on that.
Oh, you did a plunger only run.
Plunge percent.
Yeah, I think the bosses could have used a health meter a la Mega Man, because sometimes it's
Yes.
difficult to tell whether you're actually, like, damaging them. They just flash white, which could mean anything.
Yeah.
And you don't know how low they are. Yeah.
The,
Yeah, just the final boss. I asked because I didn't find him like bad, just a little bit. So you basically confirmed not really much of anything you said. Yeah, like
I think all the bosses are mid, but the fact that the final boss is mid is a bad sign.
it's a shame because it comes off of the Pete fight, which is sort of like the only one that's a real puzzle. Like he's on this sort of Robotnik like hover ball moving around the stage.
What's
you sort
the
of have
puzzle
to.
element? What do you mean by the puzzle element?
You just have to like, because he's moving around, he can go off screen, and you sort of have to chase him and line up a shot. You know.
Right. I just did it all. I don't know. I found just the thing is like I found just one movement that worked. So I just stayed on the like ground floor, and then I went like left, right on the platform, hit him, left, right on the platform, hit him. It was just I did the same thing over and over again, which whatever, but it's not a bad fight, but like kind of the final fight was the same thing for me, just kind of doing the same thing for a while.
Yeah.
So, just not very dynamic, those fights.
It could have used a Lies of P second phase.
No. No. Lies of Pete.
My God.
Lies of Pete, huh?
Oh. You know, Mickey Mouse is going public domain soon. We could get we could get the Steamboat Willie tie-in.
Every game will have starring Mickey Mouse title.
Lies of Mickey Mouse.
They
I would
have that. It's
play
called
that.
Epic Mickey.
Oh my god. That lie mechanic in fucking Lies of P made me think of fucking Epic Mickey, let me tell you. I think we're wrapping up. Is there anything else we need to say about Quackshot?
I looked up the composer because I was kind of a little bit disappointed. It's fine, but like, you know, a little bit. And actually he's called Shigenori Kamiya, and he did like also the music for the other for Castle and Legend of Illusion, not for World, interestingly enough. But I actually recognized one of his he did like also some just albums as a musician, so like, and I actually recognized one which I can recommend. It's called Mu, M-U, the album. Yeah, that's it. That's the check out that album, I guess. I think it's better than the game soundtrack. But
Murph, final thoughts? Is Murph gone?
I'm here. I'm dwelling. I'm thinking.
All right, keep going, Pavlos.
Screw you, Daisy.
Well, I
Dude,
intend
it's
to.
just seeing the statue. If I gave like any girlfriend a statue for the date. I don't even think was it an anniversary or some shit.
No, it's just like, oh, you
It's
promised
a
we'd
date.
have dinner later. Like, it wasn't even dinner and a present. He showed up to the dinner with a present.
That's how it always
And he was-
goes. She's
With
just
his
ungrateful.
personal aircraft that he apparently owns.
I like how for the big like thing where you grab the bird, he says, "I should. It's not worth it to call my airplane for this."
Yes, that's true.
Well, it's like what?
Any other game you'd be on the aircraft like Sonic with tails? Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Huey and Louie game. When?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like,
we didn't mention the other appearances. Like we just mentioned Pete for 5 seconds. Pete's in this. Goofy's in this. Goofy gives you like a puzzle answer. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
He's just
Goofy's
chilling out in
this.
an Aztec temple.
Yeah, he was there before you.
Yeah.
It's like
the
what?
hell? Scrooge is in it technically at the start.
Yeah, gyro
Yeah,
gear loose.
Yeah. Yeah.
No Launchpad McQuack.
No.
I guess they did that because Launchpad would obviously
different
pilot
universe.
the plane, right? Or I
Huey-
guess different users.
Huey and
yeah.
Louie piloting it. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm
But
saying.
Launchpad
They're-
should have. That's his thing.
They're the tails. They're the tails of this.
Yeah.
All right.
Famous pilot. Tails.
Tailspin.
Mouse
OAO.
power. Are we
Pavlos.
doing associations? Yep. What's up?
I am so thankful that you got to guest with us. We need to do this sooner than two years.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you have anything to plug? Do you have anything to say to the viewers at home that missed you? They would say to us, Papa Broken, when is Pavlos going to guest on the Daydreamcast? And I would
went out
say,
to get cigarettes.
yeah, you went out to get say, never, young child.
I guess I can say, don't bother me. Don't contact me. Don't contact me or my family. That there's absolutely zero accounts or addresses that I will give you.
Anti-plug. In fact, delete the whole episode.
Yeah. Delete your phone. Set your
He's
phone
a
fire
hermit.
after this.
He's the old gaming hermit out in the woods, and the children come to him and say, "Please, old man, give us an opinion on a video game." And he will whisper, "No."
Open worlds suck.
Oh my gosh. Murph, do we have anything to plug?
Yeah, I will plug my other podcast. This podcast is a bad idea. We will have a new episode coming out pretty much the same week this does. We took a look at 6 different indie animated pilots on YouTube and sort of compared and contrasted them.
Pilots like Tails.
Yeah, like on Tailspin, OAO. But Broken, you and I, the year is winding down, and we have no more Game of the Weeks to play. That's a 2024 Murph and Broken thing to decide. But we will have our end of the year roundup and retrospective, and declaring what games we thought were better than other games.
Yes. And we're going to do it through a special style called a Venn diagram. Very scientific, very
Patented
complex.
Murph diagram.
Yes.
So game of the year you're doing next?
Yep. That's what's happening. We would have
wanna know
done
mine?
Game of the Year 1985 or 1986, but we know what happened there.
Yeah. Cal, just too flaky. You want to know my game of the year?
Sure. He didn't have it ready.
No,
he had to think about it.
He didn't have an answer.
He did.
Yeah.
He's pulling up
I think,
Wikipedia.
I think it has. I think it has to go to Sega Rally.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
For 2023?
It's the best game this year, I think.
Oh, you're a mess.
All right.
We're playing out. We're done. It's over.
Sega Rally.
Okay.
Thank you guys.